Hi everyone, I am Hemu. I am presenting my extended project titled Hide and Seek. This presentation was developed as part of Element 1 from my DE7606 practice. Now I will explain how the work demonstrates the two learning outcomes. For learning outcome 1, research and analysis. The starting point for this project was a historical event that took place in Wuhan, China in 1998, Feb 14th. On Valentine's Day, a public bus exploded. After police investigations, it was revealed that the explosion was caused by a gay couple, Kasaojun and Zhu Changli, who had made a homemade bomb in an act of joint suicide. Both of them were factory workers with artistic ambitions. They dreamed of becoming painters and hoped one day to hold their own exhibition. However, the pressures of social stigma, economic precarity, and systemic exclusion drove them into despair. My research began with collecting scattered archival materials and piecing together fragments from newspapers, oral retellings, and online forums. The incident is almost completely erased from mainstream narratives, and when it is mentioned, it is often distorted. This required me to critically examine not only what was said, but also what was silenced. I was particularly interested in how Chinese media searched for someone to blame, framing the couple as deviant rather than asking deeper questions about the systemic pressures that led to their act. To support this analysis, I read into queer theory, as well as scholarship on memory, trauma, and representation. Rather than approaching theory as something abstract, I treated it as a lens through which to reinterpret the fragments I collected. For instance, I thought critically about the role of erasure, how queer names, voices, and dreams are systematically erased from collective memory. This gave me a strong contextual foundation to position my project not simply as an artwork, but as a form of archival repair and social commentary. Importantly, my research was not limited to academic sources. I also drew from direct experiences, recording sounds at Wuhan bus stations, photographing traces of everyday life, and building connections with queer friends who participated in my video production. These situated practices anchored my work in both local history and lived community perspectives. Through this research process, I was able to frame Hide and Seek as a project that addresses not just a single tragedy, but also the wider patterns of queer invisibility in East Asian contexts. For learning outcome 2, experimentation and practice. The second outcome relates to experimentation and practice, and this was central to how I approached the project. My aim was never to produce a polished commercial outcome, but to explore how different media drawing, photography, video, and installation could interact to tell a layered visual story. Experimented with a range of materials. For example, I placed the bus model into a freezer to create surreal visual experiments. The frost and condensation resembled the fragility of memory, and through this I discovered how everyday materials could hold symbolic weight. I also used a flamethrower in a studio setting, burning wooden boards and paintings to create video documentation. This process was risky, both technically and conceptually, but it opened up new ways of thinking about destruction, memory, and residue. The ashes left behind were later reused in another video, Love is Kind, where the falling gray particles resembled black snow. This became a metaphor for queer life, fragile, dispersed, but still visible in the air. My experimentation extended to sound design as well. In the video, This Is Where We Are, I combined my own recordings of brush strokes dropping, factory conveyor belt noises, and fire alarms to construct a soundscape of neglect and suppression. In Bus, I used the field recordings I personally collected from Wuhan Yangtze Bridge station bus engines, chaotic passengers, to create an atmosphere of tension and urgency. In these ways, experimentation was not only technical but also conceptual. Each risk I took, working with fire, embracing fragmented media, combining drawing with film, was a way of testing how far visual storytelling could go in addressing historical trauma and collective memory. Through both research and practice, I came to see myself not as a conventional illustrator producing market-driven images, but as what I would call an image maker or visual blender. My outcomes, whether drawings, videos, or booklets, are not finished products, but catalysts. I think of them as yeast, fragile but capable of fermenting new discussions and solidarities within the queer community. The process also taught me that my work does not belong solely to me once it is made. It belongs to the community it seeks to engage with, and its value lies not in being an art object, but in sparking reflection, conversation, and connection. Ultimately, Hide and Seek is both a remembrance and a provocation. It remembers the silenced voices of Sao Jun and Zhu Chengli, but it also provokes questions about how we remember and who gets to be remembered. It is my hope that even in its small scale, the project can act as a catalyst for queer memory and for deeper solidarity. Thank you for watching.